world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the very last video in my Supervillians Explored Masters of Evil marathon. And I am going to pretty much end this whole marathon with a huge bang, because today I'm going to talk about one of the greatest threats the Marvel Universe has ever known. He mainly appears as an enemy of of the Fantastic Four, but he has proven himself to be a very huge danger and threat to not only the Fantastic Four, but to the entire Marvel Universe. Ladies and gentlemen, Annihilus. I felt like I should do that for added drama, but no. But Annihilus is without a doubt my second favorite Marvel villain, second only to Ultron. And his origins are kind of complicated, but I'll do the best I can to explain them to you. Annihilus is from an alternate antimatter universe known as the Negative Zone. And he's actually a member of an extinct race of aliens known as the Tyannans, who, during the early days of the Negative Zone, were actually the most successful and cultured alien race to ever inhabit the Negative Zone. And so they decided in order to populate, they sent out all these different organic spores to all these different planets, and these spores would eventually grow into these Tyannans. This is pretty much how they repopulated. But when their main ship is hit by an asteroid, it crash lands on a planet called Arthros, and thus all of the remaining spores on the ship pretty much leak out, and the crew on the ship pretty much starve to death. And this one spore would grow into, actually became incredibly smart and self-aware from the moment that it was created, and it would grow into a large adult Tyannan, and this one was named Annihilus. Annihilus pretty much realized how he came to be created, and he learned more about his history, and when he learned of this, he became incredibly paranoid. So he decided to he basically decided to use all of the technology from the crashed starship and developed an enormous arsenal of weaponry of his own. For one thing, he created a sort of a gene modifier, I guess you could say, that he used to transform several indigenous life forms and kidnap most of his fellow Tyannans who evolved from the spores and turn them into his own personal honor guard. And on top of that, he used many of the weapons and the tech from his ship to create an incredibly powerful weapon that he dubs the Cosmic Control Rod, which enables him to manipulate all matter of cosmic energy. And this not only enhances Annihilus's powers and his intellect, but it also gives him retarded aging. And he is basically immortal for as long as he possesses this rod. And even though he had an incredibly loyal army of scavengers and warriors, he was still quite paranoid, and he viewed quite literally everybody on every planet in the negative zone as a threat. So he set out to conquer the entire realm, the entire universe, pretty much. And that's Annihilus's origins in a nutshell. Annihilus would first come into contact with the Fantastic Four during the late 60s in Fantastic Four Annual number 6. Here, when he was drawn by Jack Kirby, the Fantastic Four consisting mainly of Johnny, Reed, and Ben, the Thing. Sue wasn't with them because she was pregnant, and she was having a bit of complications when she was pregnant with Reed and Sue's son, Franklin. So Reed, along with Johnny and Ben, traveled to the negative zone to try to gather some kinds of particles to try to solve these problems that Sue was having. This is when they first encountered Annihilus, whose soldiers actually kidnapped the Fantastic Four, well, the Fantastic Three, I guess technically you should say, and tried to kill them. But they managed to steal Annihilus's control rod, and you needed to borrow it to help Sue give birth to Franklin. Afterwards, they gave it back, and Annihilus was pretty angry for a while. Annihilus would only become a lot more pissed off whenever Dr. Doom would actually steal his control rod in order to use it to steal the power from Galactus. When this happened, Annihilus was actually bold enough to kidnap Reed and Sue's son, Franklin, and hold him hostage in the negative zone. And he forced the Fantastic Four to steal back the cosmic control rod from Dr. Doom. And shortly after that, Annihilus would become friends, or I guess I shouldn't say friends, because Annihilus he never really trusts anybody except himself. But he forged an alliance with another negative zone conqueror called Blastar. Blastar would help out Annihilus during many of his different conquests of the planets of the negative zone. However, one time whenever Annihilus actually procured, that's the word I was looking for, whenever he procured the super adaptoid android from AIM, he planned to augment and enhance it with all kinds of cosmic powers so that he could lay waste to the entire realm of Earth. Blastar's mate discovered him while he saw this happening, and when Annihilus found out, he killed her. Blastar was angry about this, so he stole Annihilus's rod. And so when this happened, Annihilus started to age, and he started dying. So he traveled to Earth. He took Franklin hostage again, along with Alicia Masters, and he threatened to merge the negative zone with Earth, with the regular universe, so that Blastar would give him back his control rod. And during this, there was a lot of carnage and a lot of destruction that happened. And earlier he actually managed to murder one of Reed Richards' best friends, a man named by the name of Janus, who was another somewhat obscure Marvel superhero. So Annihilus has done a lot of bad stuff, but I haven't even scratched the surface yet. Eventually, Annihilus would venture into Asgard, and he would actually abduct the sleeping body of Odin, who entered the Odin sleep, which definitely speaks volumes of his character, because it takes balls to kidnap the king of the gods. But eventually, Heimdall and Thor would go in into the negative zone and try to rescue Odin, Thor would be very badly defeated by Annihilus, only for Odin to wake up at just the right time and defeat him. When that plan failed, eventually Annihilus would be imprisoned alongside Blastar and the Fantastic Four, or by a race of negative zone aliens who had actually enslaved Annihilus's actual race before. Eventually, along with the help of the Fantastic Four and Blastar, Annihilus managed to overthrow these oppressors, and he regained control of the negative zone. And he sided with another negative zone conqueror named Siphon, whom he and Blastar betrayed because when they figured out that Siphon planned to betray them. Eventually, in one instance where the Fantastic Four would become stuck in the negative zone, they somehow managed to steal Annihilus's control rod, open up a portal, and go back to Earth, taking the control rod with them and leaving Annihilus very, very weak. And this ends up sort of as a consequence of him not having his control rod, because a group of interdimensional negative zone explorers managed to defeat and kill Annihilus. But when this happens, he doesn't die for good. No, he actually, whenever he dies, he actually creates hundreds upon hundreds and thousands of clones of himself, and thus leading to the famous annihilation wave, as they call themselves, which is the current title of the huge comic book event known as Annihilation, where Annihilus would seek to gain control of all the interdimensional realms and not just the negative zone. But I feel like I've said enough about Annihilus. This guy is a fantastic villain, and I love every comic book I read with him, and he's without a doubt my favorite Fantastic Four villain and my second favorite Marvel villain of all time. I also believe that he was a great character to end this list on, as most of the big comic book fans, they're going to know who Annihilus is, and I do believe that Annihilus doesn't quite get the credit that he deserves. So hopefully we may see him in more types of stuff other than the comics, because this guy needs to be exposed to more people. He's definitely one of my favorite comic villains, and he is the man to end this little series of supervillain videos on. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. You can look forward to some more different supervillain videos in the future. I do plan on doing more non-DC and non-Marvel supervillain characters, but much like Steve, I am also sort of taking advantage of the dozens of characters that both universes offer for us to talk about. But yeah, that's it for the Masters of Evil Marathon. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.